Warning, the video you're about to see, although edited for YouTube, contains imagery and subject matter that some may find disturbing. While this video is educational only, I still feel that viewer discretion is advised.
Many of you remember while playing video games to encounter weird and disturbing moments, even if the game isn't a horror game. This video will be dedicated to such games, but also real horror games. I found an iceberg picture on Reddit and I wanted to use it for this video. I will cover the first layer of the iceberg in this video, and of course I will talk about every game we see on the list and show you why they are dark, obscure and disturbing. So just to explain, if you're not familiar with iceberg videos, the top of the iceberg are games that are publicly more or less known. And as we go deeper, we will see much more disturbing obscure games. Just to make it sure, not all games on the list are real horror games, but they contain so deeper meaning and unsettling vibes, and that's why they are on the list. So, make yourself a coffee, sit back, turn off the lights, and let's start with this video.
Layer 1.
Can You Pet is a game about a little chicken, and I know this doesn't seem like a horror game, but don't let the cute graphics fool you. It starts pretty chill, you can play with your chicken, you can dress him up and order it to do various tricks. But as soon as you press the bicycle button, you see that something is wrong, because the bicycle will turn around and it becomes a saw, which rips your cute little body into pieces. Even worse, the parts that are falling out are actual photos of parts and not cartoon-like like the game. It is basically a game that wants to play with your emotions, and it also sends a message about animal cruelty. I will combine both Slenderman topics into one and talk about Slenderman in general. Slenderman was a phenomenon when it was created. He haunted everybody's dreams back in the day, and it filled the internet with many creepypastas. It had an original concept and design. You were chased by a faceless man in a forest, trying to collect various letters. The more letters you find, the faster he gets. He is simply the definition of fear of the unknown. Slenderman is also easily one of the most memorable horror characters we saw in recent history. Five Nights at Freddy's. There is not much gameplay in this game because you watch at cameras and that's it more or less. But what made the game a horror game is the part you being haunted by possessed animatronics. You're a security guy, but the only thing you're watching out is for your own sanity. The game exploded in popularity with many sequels and spin-offs, merchandise and of course creepypasta. But what made the game so special is the lore. It's being presented in a cryptic manner which involves dead children. This game frightened many teenagers around the world, and the game also helped to grow many YouTube channels. Spooky Jumpscare Mansion. Can you survive 1000 rooms of cute terror? This game is much different from other games in this genre. Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion is a free-to-play game that can be found on Steam, and it has a cult-like following to it. Many people praise the game for its dark and clever themed horror. As the name suggests, the game has jump scares, and the main objective is you need to find your way throughout 1000 rooms. And with each room you enter, the cuteness fades away. You will find yourself in quite bizarre places and being chased by various monsters. Baldi's Basics. So how to describe this game? Baldi's Basics is a basic game. It's a meme at this point. The game is set in a school where you need to answer questions. So this sounds like real life. But the school got some other problems going on because some questions can't be answered and the game starts just being bizarre. So the game looks like something you would see maybe 10 or 20 years ago as a kid on an educational program. So maybe that makes the game even weirder. Amnesia is a game that wasn't replicated since it was released, and it helped to launch a career of one of the most popular YouTubers out there, PewDiePie. It's a game where you can't fight back, but only run from the creepy monsters following you around. You need to watch on your own sanity so you don't get insane, and of course you can light up torches to feel safe, but they are very limited. It has a certain charm to it. The whole story revolves around you finding letters where you discover why you awaken with amnesia and what actually happened to you. A masterpiece that is still worth playing. Bendy and the Ink Machine is a game that tells a story in 5 parts about an animator, Henry Stein, who is retired, but he gets called up to visit his old animation studio, where he discovers that the ink machine brings cartoons back to life. To top it all off, they made a special cult where they need human souls to survive. The game possesses a certain charm with the cartoons looking like old Disney characters. I especially like how the enemies are looking at you with their hollow, dark eyes. Not the most disturbing game on the list, but we will go more deeper on the Iceberg. Don't worry. Resident Evil is a well-known franchise with many games and spin-offs, and it would be a miracle if you didn't heard it about somewhere. Well, Resident Evil 4 was certainly a good horror game, and it has its moments. Because the game is so well known, I won't dive deep into this one. The game was a breath of fresh air and it changed the perspective of the previous titles, and it was much more immersive for the time. Enemies have also become more deadly and better looking. I leave it at that, but we will soon take a look at another Resident Evil on the list, don't worry. SCP Containment Breach. So this game goes into weird territory. The game is based, as the title say, on a SCP foundation, so it's like a prison for people who have special powers or they are a threat to the human society. The game opens with you walking a prison and being escorted. So basically the military was sent into the prison, kill everybody in it, including you, but they got also possessed over time. It's based that the SCP are different types of, let's say, viruses that can affect your behavior and you can act like a zombie, or when you hear a certain music, you're driving notes with your blood, and so on. The game definitely has a Illuminati vibe to it. I hate to admit it, but it generally scares me. It's not like I'm believing there is a facility like that with paranormal activities, but the thought of what are the governments doing without the public knowledge is quite unsettling. The game has pretty mixed reviews, where some claim it's a masterpiece on its own, others say it's a pile of horse crap. But I'll let you decide. Among the Sleep lets you take a control of a toddler, which parents are divorced. The game can be fairly creative in its environment and atmosphere. You will visit many strange places. The most horror aspect of this game is the fact you're a hopeless toddler in a grown-up world. But you're not alone, because you have your teddy bear. Well, the teddy bear is really creepy. With his dark and empty eyes, it is like you're looking into abyss. The game is definitely extremely short and kind of repetitive, but it's worth checking out. Little Nightmares. Little Nightmares is a game where you take control of a character called Six. Your job is to get out the freakish facility you got caught in. You will need to sneak out, or even worse, outrun your enemies in hope you don't get caught. The game doesn't revolve around cheap jump scares, but rather setting the right atmosphere. You're a small and scared kid in a yellow raincoat. And yeah, you need to avoid everyone because it will mean your death. It's a game who presents how a kid views all the horrors of an adult world. This is the first letter of the most dark, obscure and disturbing video games, Iceberg. We have 4 more to go, so be prepared because the next video will be out sooner than you think.